it's a popular name in Jesus' day. Jesus' mother's name was Mary. Of course, there's Mary Magdalene. And there's several other Marys that are mentioned throughout the Gospels. And one of them is Mary of Bethany. And there's about 3 well-known stories about this particular Mary. One is from the Gospel of Luke about Mary and Martha, her and her sister. And the other is 2 different stories, one which we heard today from the Gospel of John. And in these 2 stories, we hear about a brother named Lazarus. Can anybody remember what happens in the Mary and Martha story from Luke? Jesus comes to visit them, and what happens? What does Martha do while Jesus is visiting Mary and Martha?
She prepares the food.
Martha's busy in the kitchen or whatever. Or it's cleaning or doing something.
Martha is serving, is the actual word. But usually that gets translated into household chores. Household chores, right? So she's busy doing the job of being a hostess, right? And what's Mary doing? Mary is sitting at Jesus' feet, listening to him talk. Yes, she's not so busy. And then there's the story right before this one about Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. Lazarus is the one who's featured in that story. What happens to Lazarus in the story? He dies, right? He gets ill. The sisters send word to Jesus, who's a good friend of their family. They beg him to come. And does he? Eventually. Not when they ask. Their brother dies in the meantime. They actually send word to him that the brother has passed away. He whom he loved has died, they say in the message. And Jesus comes. And then Martha, busy Martha, she comes out to greet him on the road. Doesn't even make it to the house. And she has harsh words for him initially, that he didn't come sooner. If you had come sooner, Lord, my brother would not have died. And then they have a conversation about who Jesus is as the salvation of his people. And then he sends for Mary. Jesus does. So Martha goes to the house. She brings Mary. What is Mary doing in the house? She's weeping, mourning with the villagers, right? So she comes out, and this being village life, everybody comes with her, right? It's going to be a scene. We want to get the gossip. And so she comes before Jesus, and what does she do? She makes the same accusation as her sister. If you had only come earlier, Jesus, my brother would not have died. And then she starts to cry again. And then this is the shortest verse in the Bible, right? Her crying makes Jesus to start to cry. And then they go to the tomb with great fanfare. They open the stone, and Jesus calls for Lazarus, and he comes out alive, raised from the dead. And there's a short little interlude between that story and the one we heard from today. And in that interlude, it's the leaders of the Jewish people talking about what's happened. And they're worried because people are so stirred up by this Jesus fellow that they're worried that there will be riots on his behalf against the empire, and that the Romans will come in and kill everybody. And so they decide on a solution to prevent this. What's their solution? Kill Jesus, right? Get rid of him, the source of the problem will be okay. P.S. doesn't work. Not long after this, the Romans come in and stop them, everybody. But that's their tactic. So Jesus is on the down low now, because people are looking for him to kill him. But being Jesus, he decides one last dinner party with Mary and Martha and Lazarus and all of the disciples. Now imagine this scene, right? Lazarus was just dead. And here he is, alive, well, sitting at the table, eating with everybody. That would be incredible, wouldn't it? And Martha, what's she doing? Serving, yeah, doing her deal. She's serving. And then Mary, she does a strange thing. What does Mary do? Yeah, she washes Jesus' feet with perfume and dries it with her hair. So not just a little bit of perfume, right? A pound of costly perfume. How costly? a year's worth of a laborer's wages. So like $50,000 perfume on Jesus' feet. And then she wipes it up with her hair. So, perfume, right? How much do you usually use? Just a little bit, right? My mom had this. I walked through it. How economical. Are you Dutchies? Then it gets all over you. There you go. Right, yes. Good distribution. Okay. So, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. Or spray and walk through is Rosie's technique. But just a little bit, right? My mom had a bottle of perfume, and she doesn't wear it that often. For decades. Sitting on her dresser. You only use a little bit, right? This is a pound. Like her jar's like this big on her dresser. A pound would be more than that. All over Jesus' feet. And then to wipe it up, right? A towel? No. A cloth? No. Her hair. Have you ever tried to wipe something up with your hair? Something oily? There's oils already on your hair. How effective do you think that was? If your goal is to clean up the mess. Maybe not so much, right? So there must be something behind this. Mary, actually, in this moment, she hasn't gone crazy. She's being a prophet. Prophets, right? What do they usually do? They speak God's truth to God's people, right? Well, Mary didn't say anything. But there's also this practice within the realm of prophecy of the prophetic act. And this happens throughout Scripture. And the prophetic act is usually a strange action or display that a prophet will do to convey God's truth. Right? In the Old Testament, for example, to give you a taste of the strangeness of some of these prophetic acts, Ezekiel baked some bread over human poop as a prophetic act. That's pretty weird, right? Jeremiah, he takes a whole bunch of jars and he breaks them in front of a crowd of people. Kind of strange, Jeremiah. But it's a prophetic act. There's other ones, other examples. Hosea, he marries a prostitute and then has 3 children, which he gives unfortunate names like, I don't love you, and not my people. But it's a prophetic act, right? They're supposed to convey something to God's people. I know, it sounds puzzling. We went into the stories, it would make sense. But we got time here on our side. So Mary, she's doing the same thing. And again, it sounds strange, right? But there's meaning behind what she's doing. So the only time in this time period that you would put this much oil or perfume on somebody would be in 2 cases. One, absolutely. Before you put a body into the tomb, you would anoint it with oil. This amount, a huge amount, right? And then the other is if you were anointing a king. You were acknowledging somebody as king. You would anoint them with oil. So Mary, by this act, she's showing the disciples that Jesus is king and that soon he will die. And then the hair, right? So if you remember, hair is kind of erotic during this time period. It's a very intimate part of a woman's body. Usually it's covered, right? So by using her hair, Mary is showing the intimacy of this gesture, how personal this gesture is between her and Jesus. And then there's Judas, right? Who the author goes out of his way to tell us, Judas is a butthead. Right? Before Judas even gets to speak, the author reminds us, this is the guy who's going to betray Jesus. Have that grain of salt when you hear what he has to say. And then after Judas speaks, and what he says, kind of makes sense. Could have sold the perfume, gave some money to the poor, that would have been good. Then the author tells us that that's not really what he wanted to do. He wanted to steal that money. AKA Judas butthead. And Jesus tells him off, right? After Judas says his piece, Jesus essentially says, buzz off, Judas. You don't understand. What she's doing has meaning. And then there's that last verse, which has been abused by some congregations, some Christians, where Jesus says, you always have the poor, but you will not always have me. So what does that mean? Is Jesus saying, well, the poor don't matter, you focus on me? That doesn't really make sense, right, given what Jesus' ministry has been about. He's constantly among, eating with folks who are on the margins, who are in poverty. What I think Jesus is saying is different. It's not either or. It's both and. Yes, we have a calling to serve, to care for the community. But don't forget to be grateful, to give thanks for your brothers and sisters in Christ, for your congregation, for all that you have been given by God. Because that is what Mary is doing. Her brother has just been raised from death to life. How can you even begin to give thanks for something like that? And so here she has this extravagant outpouring of love, almost like the father in last week's story, the prodigal son, who kills the fatted calf, right? This extravagant gesture, welcoming his son back home. Here, Mary, she pours out this thousands of dollars worth of perfume and this extravagant gesture of love. So I wanted us to think about, what do we have to be grateful for here at St. John's in this congregation? You know, sometimes we're like Judas. We can kind of get caught up in the ministry, making sure we're pinching those pennies, doing everything right so that we're not wasting any money, always thinking of those who are less fortunate than us. Yes, and don't forget to give thanks for all that you've been given, for all that's made it possible for us to be here. So I want you to think. Now, it could be a ministry, it could be a person, it could be something the congregation as a whole has received, or that you individually have received as a member of it. What is one thing that we have to be grateful for? What's one thing that would cause us to outpour our thanks? Write it down. You do have little cards, hopefully. If you don't, who doesn't have cards? Me. So you know. Raise your hand if you don't have a card. Anybody else? What can you think of? I can think of one thing. I'm grateful to have you with us, Isabel. And you, Mr. Harry. I'm grateful you're here. That makes me happy. What else do we have to be grateful of? grateful for? A place to come and worship and pray. You know, a long time ago, they didn't have that. They had to build this place. First over there, then here. Absolutely. What else do we have to be grateful for? Family. Susan are all here.
As far as the service goes, our beautiful organ. And
The
the organ
organ.
is playing great hymns.
Yeah, the great hymns. Play on the organ. And that lady who plays it,
That's right.
way back there. Joan. Absolutely. What else? For our salvation. The gift given to us by God. Grace, forgiveness, new life. Absolutely. What else? Yeah, so this community, right, which for you has been since your birth. People who have helped you along the way as you grew up, considered what you wanted for your life, walked beside you. Absolutely. What else? Loving and hospitable individuals. She says that. That millennial up there. Hear it. What else?
I'm grateful for your preaching, your wisdom, and your willingness to preach the gospel.
Thank you. Paula says she's grateful for the preaching and the gospel that comes forth in that preaching. The good news. And not just me. I don't just take care of all of you. You all take care of each other. St. John's is very good at that. They're very caring. Always wanting to know, how's so-and-so doing? How's it going? What else? That's all. Those are the major ones, right? Salvation, good news, caring community. That's pretty big. Yes. So how the whole congregation comes behind this ministry of the Lot's Party to care for the community. All ages. Everybody comes out and does their thing. Whether they help beforehand, or they're there on the day, or they invite friends, everybody's involved. Everybody cares about this ministry, which helps those who are unfortunate, the poor in our midst. How about that? Anything else? The fellowship room. Many thanks to those who made that possible. One sitting right here, Kenneth Eisenhart, and one who's not with us, Ed Ruff Snyder. That has been a wonderful addition to our space. Say that again. Answers to prayers. Absolutely. Definitely something we have to be grateful for. The sound of children. I like that one too. I wasn't searching for that, just so you know. But thank you, yes. I feel it's a good match. I really do. I know there might be a gap in years between some of us, but I'm from this place. I know you. Absolutely. So many things. Our musical program. The chimes, the bands, our organist, choir. I want to say the things I didn't say first. All those things. We're really lucky. Not many places do you go to find a choir, chimes, the organ, band. Usually it's one or the other. The technology, yes. Many thanks to Ron Coder, who was passionate about that. help run it, back there in the corner, down the hall here. We have so much to be thankful for. Imagine this whole time we've been pouring out perfume. It would be nice in here, wouldn't it? The fragrance might have filled the house. Do you know in the Old Testament what you would do to give thanks to God? Offerings at the temple, right? What would they be? Usually, but for a thanks offering, so of course he said animals. For a thank offering, it would be some kind of grain, cake, our specialty here in St. John's, covered in oil, anointed in oil. I know, that's a little weird, maybe we wouldn't eat that cake. But it ties in with this gesture from Mary. The anointing of oil. It's a traditional symbol of thanks. And just like Mary, we too have so much to give thanks for. Truly that we couldn't even begin to fully give thanks for all we received. But the gesture of naming these things, remembering these things, offering these things up to God in praise, it helps us. It grounds us. Our faith in this gratitude for having received this extreme, extravagant, lavish love.